And do you work with the playwright first, or do you work with the actors first?
No, it's always with the playwright first. So it always starts with the playwright. It starts with me having an idea or seeing the playwright's work or having a relationship with them already. And then there's always an element of negotiation, and then sort of what I'm trying to do is pinpoint what is the strength of that writer and what they've got to give.
And what their particular voice
and
is.
what their voice is and what they want to say. So with the Muddy Choir, it was I went to see a play called Bound, which is Jesse's first play.
Which he wrote, yes, I saw, yeah.
And I didn't know Jesse at all. I just went to see it. I picked up a leaflet and went to see it because it sounded interesting. And I absolutely loved it. And I hadn't had that kind of experience in a theatre before. Not before, but for a long time. Yeah. And so I just kind of got in touch with him and said, I really loved your play. Do you want to come in for a chat? And we spoke and I got to know him. And the thing that I felt was really valuable about Jesse was, one, he's a young writer. He's at the sort of very early stage of his career as an actor, director, teacher and writer. He's a bit of a Renaissance man in that respect.
Sounds it.
And I really was in. What was so wonderful about Bounds is he writes young men so well. He writes their emotional life so well. He kind of sees beyond the machismo of maybe kind of...
That's apparent in the Muddy Choir.
Yeah, and I found that really interesting. And I had an idea in my head that we maybe should be commissioning a play for the centenary of the First World War. And I thought, well, if we were going to do that, I wanted it to be a new play.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be by a young writer,
yeah.
And I wanted it to depict characters, soldiers, that were near the age of our audience.
The audiences that you're playing to may have brothers or sisters who've been to Afghanistan and experienced combat, in horrific situations. But combat is combat, isn't it? If it's 1914 or 2014, it's still people dying, it's still bullets whizzing around, and there may well be a connection there with members of the audience.
Yes, and I think that's what all the drama that's happening at the moment is trying to find, is how can we reflect back in history and sort of bring that alive again, so that we could look at today's situation, how young people have a relationship with war and with peace, and sort of make them question, make them have a view on that, whether it's and I was very clear that I didn't want this play necessarily to be a pacifist play or a pro-war play. I just wanted it to depict humans within that situation, and that sort of how that landscape, that backdrop can change people, or can bring out different things in people, or consolidate different characteristics in people, and how these young men cope
or don't
cope within this very, very extreme and very, very violent landscape that they live in.
In terms of the staging of the play, it's in a trench.
It's in a trench.
So we've got things happening outside, and we've got this sense of claustrophobia inside.
Yeah.
What special, interesting challenges did you, or are you having in terms of making it a piece of theatre and giving the audience that outside and inside?
As balance? You know, a lot of our recent work has been quite moved. There's been a lot of physical movement within it. There's been and trying to sort of really maximise the space that we have, and to sort of drive the story through the physical presence of the actors on stage. And I suppose I'm still going to sort of be looking at doing that, but there is sort of constraints with that. It's a trench in France in 1917. So me and the designer, the set itself is going to be quite claustrophobic, in that the physical space that the actors move in is actually very, very defined. So the flooring will be is duckboards, as you know, along as if trenches. So that's just where they'll be confined to those. They won't be sort of moving right across the flat. And obviously then the end wall is kind of the trench wall. And so there will be a very, very confined area. They'll also be in full kit, and that the uniform was quite,
very
quite
heavy,
extensive.
Yeah.
So the fact is they will be confined and confined by their costume as well. And I think sound design is going to play a very big part in this, because we've got the live singing between the scenes, as well as within a couple of the scenes. And that's going to contrast with the recorded sound design, which so there's live singing being very much the epitome of these boys living their passion, their humanity, and that sort of juxtaposed with the sound design, which will be the bombs, the barrage of bombs, the gunfire, the sniper fire, the gas, the general sort of landscape, and how we can bring that down and bring that up in moments of drama. The idea is to find the essence of that atmosphere and that the environment that they had to contend with, but very much the drama. It does sing out. A lot of it happens off stage, but it really happens between those characters under this incredible pressure.
I'm interested in it because it's a 3-character play in the business of these relationships and how they develop. And obviously, I haven't seen the play yet, but I've read it, and I'm interested in how that's going to develop. The tensions between Robbie and Will, and the need to protect from Will. Going back to early childhood. And
I think more so now that he's, with his actions on the front line, his protection of Jumbo is also to protect himself.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I think he starts to play in a deeply morally compromised position, and he's looking to protect that doesn't go any further. And I think he is very, very concerned, or very, very, I suppose, worried, anxious that he might have to, because he's going down a pathway which, in one respect, he maybe feels that he can't come back from.
No. And he's very much a flawed hero, isn't he?
Yes. Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, he's a very, very difficult character, I think, to sort of grab onto, because he's so full of contrast and conflict.
Yes. And there's a wonderful moment of tension, and once again, we won't give the game away, but between Robbie and Will, when Robbie finds out about Will's excursions and what he's been doing.
Yeah.
But it raises questions about morality, doesn't it? And how any of us would behave under such extreme circumstances.
Exactly. And I kind of see this triumphant, this trio of characters as kind of one whole. I see them, if you want to sort of take a sort of metaphor, they kind of are one body.
Yes.
And I think it's, the war is affecting them all differently, but their friendship is an entity which is being ripped apart by the war. Yeah. And how do they kind of, what are the wounds and how do they heal that sort of that soul that friendship sort of personifies. And you take one bit of it away, what does it become?